Hello, my name is Joshua Mugabi once again, and this time we are going to discuss about elements. An element is a substance that cannot be split into two or more simpler substances by chemical means. Is a substance that cannot be split into two or more simpler substances by chemical means. An element is made up of simpler substances called atoms. Atoms of the same element are chemically alike. Atoms of the same element are chemically alike. An atom is the smallest unit of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. An atom is the smallest unit of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. Some common elements include oxygen, nitrogen, aluminium, copper, sulfur, carbon, and many other elements. Those are some of the examples of elements. Elements are generally classified into metals and non-metals. Examples of metals we have sodium, potassium, calcium, iron, aluminium, and many others. Those are some of the examples of elements which are metals. Examples of elements which are non-metals we have oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, chlorine, helium, and many other. Those are the two types of elements, the metals and the non-metals. Elements are represented by symbols. A symbol is one or two letters representing one atom of an element. The symbols are derived from the English name or the Latin name of an element. For example, carbon is represented by the first letter, which is C. Hydrogen is represented by the first letter, which is H. Phosphorus is represented by the first letter, which is P. If an element is represented by two letters, the first letter is a capital letter and the second letter is a small letter. For example, sodium is represented by Na. The first letter is N, therefore it is put in capital letters. And the second letter is A, therefore it is put in small letter. Calcium is represented by Ca. C is capitalized and A is put in small letters. We want now to look at some of the symbols of elements derived from Latin names. Sodium is derived from a Latin name natrium, and the letters which are used are Na. Potassium is derived from a Latin name kalium and the letter is K. Iron is derived from a Latin name ferrous and the letters used Fe. Mercury is derived from a Latin name hydrogenum and the letters used is Hg. Silver is derived from Argentina and the letters used Ag. Tin symbol is derived from a Latin name stannum and the letters we use is Sn. Gold symbol is derived from a Latin name aurum and the letters using the symbol are Au. Lead is derived from a Latin name lambam and the letters are Pb. Those are some of the elements whose symbols representing their atoms are derived from the letters of their Latin names. Elements are generally classified into two, the metals and the nonmetals. We shall start with the metals. Potassium is represented by letter A. Sodium is represented by letter Na. Aluminium represented by letter Ca. Magnesium is represented by letter Mg. Aluminium is represented by letter Al. Zinc is represented by letter Zn. Iron is represented by letter Fe. Lead is represented by letter Tb. Copper is represented by letter Cu. Tin is represented by letter Sn. Silver is represented by letter Ag. Barium is represented by letter Ea. Those are some of the metals and the symbols representing an atom of each of those elements. Now we want to look at the nonmetals. Hydrogen is represented by letter H. Oxygen represented by symbol O. Nitrogen is represented by letter N. Fluorine is represented by letter F. Chlorine is represented by letter Cl. Bromine is represented by letter Br. Iodine is represented by letter I. Phosphorus is represented by letter P. Sulfur is represented by letter S. Carbon is represented by letter C. Silicon is represented by letter Ci. Argon is represented by letter Ar. Helium is represented by letter He. Those are some of the elements which are nonmetals. We want now to look at the differences between the metals and the nonmetals. 1. The metals are shiny. They can be polished and they are bright. Examples of metals, we shall look at copper. Copper is shiny, is bright and can be polished. Whereas the nonmetals, they are not shiny, they are not bright and cannot be polished. Example that we can give is sulfur. If we look at sulfur, it's not shiny, it's not bright and cannot be polished. Metals, if you look at copper, they are tough and strong. They are tough and strong. Whereas nonmetals like sulfur, they are not tough and they are not strong. They are not tough and they are not strong. Metals are malleable. That is, they can be hammered into sheets. Like for example, copper can be made into sheets. But nonmetals are not malleable. They cannot be formed into sheets. Metals are ductile in that they can be made into wires. Whereas the nonmetals, they can't be stretched or formed into wires. Metals like copper are solids and have a high boiling and melting point. Whereas nonmetals like sulfur and others are usually gases. Those that are solid like sulfur, they have low melting point and boiling points. Metals like copper are good conductors of heat and electricity, are good conductors of heat and electricity. Whereas the nanometals, they are poor conductors of heat and electricity. They are poor conductors of heat and electricity. Metals have a higher relative density, whereas nanometals have low relative densities. However, there are some metals and nanometals which behave differently from the properties that we have listed above. We say that metals are solid at room temperature, but actually it is a metal. It is a liquid at room temperature and has low melting point, and therefore it is used in thermometer. Potassium and sodium are metals, but they have a low relative density that they can float in water, which is opposite to the properties of metals with higher relative density. Carbon is a nonmetal, but it conducts electricity. Yet, one of the properties of nonmetals is that they are poor conductor of electricity. But carbon, which is a nonmetal, conducts electricity in form of graphite. We say that nonmetals are not shiny. Carbon in form of diamonds, shiny, and that's why it is used in jewels. So that is an anomaly. If you look at the properties of nonmetals, we say nonmetals are weak, they're not strong, but carbon in form of diamond is the hardest substance known. Yet we know that nonmetals are not hard. Thank you very much for staying with us. Continue to stay with us as we continue to simplify chemistry. God bless you. Hello, my name is Joshua. Thank you for staying with us. Continue to be with us. Thank you and God bless you.